Lovely, and thank you everybody for your patience. Good morning and welcome to this month's webinar. What I was saying a few moments ago is today's webinar is all about how, as we're coming to the end of the year, it's a good time to reflect and plan ahead for the next. And as I'm sure you're all aware, the next couple of years are going to be really significant for employment, and having the right plans in place is going to be invaluable. So today I'm going to be talking through what's ahead in 2025 and almost going into 2026 as well, explain how important it is for your business to get prepared for what is to come. A copy of the slides will be sent out in due course along with the recording, so you can watch it back on demand. And so just the usual introductions. I'm Victoria Templeton, the HR Knowledge Manager here at HR Solutions, and I'm joined this morning by Sue Watson. Sue's our Operations Director, and together we're going to take you through this topic. We have so many of you here today, which is really great. We've got you all on mute, but that's just so we can manage the webinar, but we do, as always, want your involvement. And we'll do that in a couple of ways. So first of all, we'll be inviting you to ask us any of your questions on the topic, and we'll aim to answer as many as we can at the end. So you'll see on your screen now what your question panel looks like in your GoToWebinar. So just simply type in your question and then we'll aim to read out as many as we can. The second way in which we like to involve you is by using polls. So these not only help to steer the webinar, but also allows us to share how the topic is being managed in our own workplace, and can therefore help to share ideas across everybody that's on the webinar this morning. So when you see this slide, it means we're going to run a poll. They are confidential. We only share obviously the results of the polls, and so we welcome as many of you today to take part in these. Before I get going, I just want to set the context as well, in that today's webinar is going to be talking through some of the key points from our recently published white paper, which you can see the QR code there if you want to get access to that. So the white paper is all about strategic HR thinking, and we explore the importance of this and aligning people and business strategy. So of course, with next year and all the employment reforms and developments in HR best practices, there's going to be opportunities for your business to pursue that focus on human resource management so that you can then deliver success through your people. So we're going to include many of the key points from this as we go through. In terms of structure, just to let you know that I think it's helpful first to discuss what's coming in 2025, and as I said, going into 26 as well, both from an employment law perspective, but also the current HR trends that we identified through working on that white paper. From there, I'll then focus on how businesses can prepare for these developments, which will include strategic HR planning, looking at HR's role in managing these forthcoming changes and developments, understanding the key competences that are going to be necessary to bring about the change so that it supports, influences the business strategy, and ultimately how businesses can then demonstrate the positive impact of the HR activities on the bottom line. And as I mentioned, we're going to finish off with Q&A at the end. So this slide now means we're going to run just a few polls, and that's just really to get us going, just to understand our audience a little bit more and the kind of organisation that you work in. So we'll run our first poll. Hopefully everybody can still hear.
There we go. The first poll's open.
Okay. So this is all about just understanding what kind of organisation everybody works in and the size of it. Let's show these polls here on my screen. Okay.
There we go. So I will close that poll and share the results. Yep. There we go.
Okay.
So pretty close, really. So 40% are in the small sector, but the majority are in the SME.
Yeah.
80%
okay.
in the SME sector. Yeah. So if I hide that and load the next one.
Yeah.
Which is sector. Which sector do you operate in? Okay, I will
Yep.
close that poll and share the
Okay.
results. So we have,
Wow.
well,
Yeah.
significantly in the private sector, but we do have a few
Yeah.
public sector as well. So I will share the next one, which is an interesting one. So who looks
Yeah.
after HR in your business? We appreciate that the sort of context of the webinar is around HR. Clearly, that's a wide scope, and every business that will be different, means somebody different. Some use outsourced providers like ourselves. Some have their own in-house team who use ourselves to help them with some resource when they need it, some extra support, or indeed we do support HR people as well with the documentation they need, etc. So yeah, so it looks like the majority of you have voted there. So I will close the poll and share those results. So there we go.
Okay.
We've got a high number of
Oh, okay.
in-house people on the call, but we still do have a good percentage of business
Yeah.
owners, office managers as well. So
Yeah. And I think this, regardless of where you sit within your organisation and what role you undertake, human resource management with it's this, what we're going to talk through is going to be invaluable as well to everybody. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Do we have one more at this stage? Oh, we have a couple
Um,
more. Yes, we do. We have two
yes.
more. So let's launch the next one, which is, do you have a strategic HR plan in place ready for 2025? I think these stats are going to show why we've got a good number of people on this call.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll close that poll and share the results.
Oh, great. There's a good percentage who are working on it.
Yeah. So, and a good number also that haven't got one in place yet. So hopefully we will give you some good pointers to help you
Yeah.
with that. And so I think we've got
Yeah.
one final one at this stage, do we?
Yeah, we do. And this last one here in this section is really the challenges. Let me just, sorry, are you considering any of the following in 2025?
Yeah. From the calls we're getting through our helplines and through the consultant teams, that those are all happening to a significant majority. So we're aware there are some challenging times, and that's what we're trying to do, is provide support in that context. Okay, I will close that poll and share those results.
Interesting, actually.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
With the
definitely,
training, normally that's one to go, isn't it, first?
yes.
In terms of where you manage costs and budgets and things.
Yeah, or all of them. Indeed, if you're freezing sort of spending, then I guess you're spending.
Yeah.
It's across the board.
True.
I guess it's a wider context, or just to freeze on certain elements. And that's right.
Yeah.
Training is often the first one, isn't it? When you're just doing
Yeah.
certain elements. But for such a high number in the spending and recruitment, then I think I guess that's why the training is a bit lower. Okay.
Yeah.
I will
Okay, lovely.
hide that and hand over to you again.
Thank you. So let's start off with looking ahead to 2025, and as I said, even going into 26. So we are going to be seeing a lot of change. The change we are expecting is likely to be the biggest change in employment rights in decades. In fact, the current employment rights bill that's going through Parliament puts forward 28 employment reforms. So it's massive. So as we navigate through 2025, we're going to be seeing consultation papers and outcomes published by the government. So we'll be getting more information on how these reforms will anticipate looking like in practice. It's likely that for many of the reforms, they will also be accompanied with either new or updated codes of practices. So we'll see those getting published in draft formats. And we can expect to see continued advice from government and ACAS in terms of supporting the reforms that are looking to come about. From a legislative point of view, the bill is likely to become an act of law next year, but we know from what the government has said already that the majority of the reforms won't be coming in before 2026, and with some even coming in from the autumn of 2026. So what happens is when a bill is passed and becomes an act of law, it can either come about fairly quickly soon after, or there needs to be a period of time and the commencement date is later. And I think that's what's going to then be happening. So we're not actually going to see, for the majority of the reforms, anything coming about until 2026. However, the important thing to emphasise here, I think, is that even though the majority of reforms aren't going to be taking effect until the year after next, due to the significant scale of the reforms, the number of reforms, it is going to need a lot of planning and preparation, and that's what 2025 is going to look like for employers. Employers are going to need to take that time to consider the impact of the reforms on their own businesses. So then there is the time that's to take in also making sure that key employment documentation is compliant, ready for when they come into force. And by that I mean your contract of employment templates, your employment policies, handbooks, and essentially looking at your current working practices to see actually what processes need changing to become compliant from 2026. And a huge element will be the training of your workforce in terms of being able to apply the new ways in which we are to manage our people. So as you can see from this illustration, on top of that, we also have the usual annual statutory changes. So we know the national minimum wage is going up in April. We know the statutory rates, for example, your sickness, your maternity, family leave rates are going to be increasing from April 2025, and we have the increase to employer national insurance contributions. So there is a lot going on next year. I'm going to cover more about this shortly, especially about how businesses can adapt themselves ready to manage these changes. But first, let me just illustrate the extent of the reforms, because they are significant. And when I spoke a moment ago about being the biggest change in employment rights in decades, you can see here from this illustration why. I'm not going to go through all the detail because obviously you're going to get a copy of the slides when they get sent to you. But really it's to highlight the scale of the changes and how wide they cover the employment relationship. Not only will employers need to consider how they recruit, bring in new employees into the organisation, but they will need to consider how to ensure they continue to be able to operate in an agile and flexible way. They also need to be dealing with the associated costs for new employment protections, but also consider new forms of family leave as well. And at the heart of people management is the relationship between the employer and employee. And this area is also going to be reformed significantly because there are plans on reforming industrial relations. And there's going to also be the introduction of a new body to enforce employment rights. I have highlighted here, just some in bold and underlined, a few of the key ones that are going to be particularly massive to manage and navigate through. So I think really 2025 is about being planned and prepared, for what is to come in the months ahead. So this leads me on to the HR trends side of things. So we, in our white paper that we created, the aim of this was to look at how businesses can grow through human resources. It's an in-depth analysis and strategic framework that we discuss in it that is aimed at transforming human resources into a pivotal element of business success, which, having just shown you those previous two slides, is actually really critical at a time of significant change. Because as businesses grapple with unprecedented changes in the workforce, developments in technology, legal frameworks, this white paper is about presenting HR not just as a support function, but also as a critical business partner that is capable of influencing the strategic direction and resilience of the business. And so central to this white paper is the argument that HR professionals must adopt a holistic view of their role, operating outside of traditional boundaries in order to embrace that innovation, strategic thinking, and having a data-driven approach. So these next few slides, I'm going to be taking you through the key trends of what we found when we created our white paper. And we'll then look at the importance of strategic planning, the role of HR and the essential competences for influencing business strategy. And together, these will then support your business to navigate into 2025 and 2026. Whilst I'm at this slide, you can see a QR code there. That will take you to download our white paper, should you wish to have a look at the further detail. So obviously I can only go through really snippets at high level in our time that we've got this morning, but there is so much detail in our paper. But let's look at the trends that we've identified in the white paper, and we've picked 5. But as I said, the paper itself goes into much more detail and covers more. So the main one is around regulatory compliance. And our paper touches on the increasing complexity of regulatory compliance because it's going to be mandatory and central to your strategic people plan, not just for 2025, but onwards. With regulatory compliance increasing in its complexity, it's going to ensure that your organisation can navigate these challenges effectively, and HR can play a significant role in doing this. So in our white paper, it talks about how important it is for HR leaders or whatever individual in the organisation that's responsible for people management, human resources. It calls for them to stay abreast of global and domestic and sector-specific regulatory changes. And it must also advocate for policies and practices that not only comply with legal requirements, but also promote ethical standards and corporate social responsibility. Because we know through various research that what somebody is looking for from their employment is very different to what they would have wanted from their employment, say 10 years ago. There is much more of a need for working in a workplace that has concern for the environmental working practices, ethical standards. And so it is about being abreast with the latest developments, not just from a legal perspective, but also from the ethical standards and corporate responsibilities. The second area that we identified was artificial intelligence, and this is a topic we have previously covered in a webinar, and we also created an employment policy on AI in the workplace as well as an impact assessment. And I guess it's clear from the last 18 months, 2 years, that artificial intelligence has emerged as a transformative technology. It's rapidly reshaping various industries and working practices globally. And with AI simulating human intelligence in machines that are capable of learning, reasoning and problem solving, it presents significant opportunities for HR leaders to enhance people management practices and business performance. So for example, AI can benefit the organization's bottom line because it can increase efficiency. It automates repetitive tasks, allowing the business to focus on the strategic activities and therefore boosting the productivity and efficiency. AI can also enhance decision making. So AI algorithms can analyze vast data sets to provide valuable insights and predictive analytics, which in turn aids quicker and more informed decision making practices. AI can also streamline your recruitment and talent management, so it can assist in CV screening. It can help to minimize bias in the recruitment process, which is also and always fundamentally important. It can conduct preliminary interviews and identify top candidates, as well as manage employee appraisals, skill gaps, and personalised learning and development plans. But crucially, it can also lead to improved customer experience. And you've probably seen AI yourselves when you've been looking online, shopping and things like that. So AI technologies like chatbots, virtual assistants can offer a quick, accurate response and personalised recommendations 24/7, and therefore enhancing that customer satisfaction and loyalty. Such is the scale of the impact of AI that the government has announced that it's going to be shortly introducing a new bill, and that's going to be called the Digital Information Smart Data Bill. And whilst the bill will be broad in scope, it's going to include specific details about how AI is to be regulated in the UK. So AI is definitely a trend to be keeping up with and following. Right, this next one I've got to just take care with how I say it, because it's not the easiest word to say. But our next area of focus is asynchronous working. I think I've said that right, Sue. But essentially, it means there's been a profound shift in the working style of employees and organisations in recent years. I guess this innovative approach to work has gained due to advancements in technology, the globalisation of the workforce, and, like I've mentioned, changing expectations of employees. You know, we're seeing much more hybrid remote working, but also not necessarily working the core 9 to 5 hours. So the asynchronous working is fundamentally different from your traditional working, where everyone is expected to be online and available simultaneously. This way of working refers to a work style in which employees are not required to be online or available in real time, but instead they have the flexibility to work on their tasks at their own pace and independent of their colleagues' schedules. Clearly, it won't necessarily work in every workplace, in every job role, but it is still a trend that is that we're seeing, and is an effective use of what is known as the rising phygital work experience. Now, this is a new buzzword. You may or may not have heard of it, but it basically is about combining the physical and the digital to recognise that the ever-improving use of technology can help to enable remote collaborative working, but whilst the importance too of keeping that human touch. So key elements of asynchronous working include communication through written messages, the use of collaborative tools like email, project management software, instant messaging platforms. All of these allow employees to focus on deep work by reducing interruptions, setting their own priorities, and allowing them to manage their time more effectively. In turn, it can lead to cost savings, better work-life balance is an obvious, and from an EDI inclusivity perspective, massively benefits an inclusive workforce. It can also improve customer service, improve innovation, as well as obviously increase efficiency and productivity. So I think it's really important to look at how your workforce is managed and what the expectations are and the ways of working, especially with some of the employment law reforms coming in. So, you know, if we think about, there are going to be changes to how we can work with 0-hour contract workers and how we bring people in. And so actually it's a good opportunity to think actually overall, how can you enhance and develop a working environment that overcomes any challenges that may have come about from any legislative changes. A fourth area to focus on is data analytics, and it is rapidly evolving, and some of you may already rely on it already in your business, but it's evolving from a nice to have to a must have capability within HR. The potential to uncover actionable insights and make data-driven decisions can offer that competitive advantage for your business. For example, it allows organisations to gain insights into your workforce trends, employee satisfaction, productivity, and therefore the data that you get from your systems gives you that ability to make those more informed decisions that align ultimately with the business objectives. And this emerging field does come with its own set of ethical and legal considerations. And so it's crucial that businesses can navigate the intricate balance between leveraging machine learning for predicting employee behaviour, whilst maintaining ethical integrity as well and legal compliance. And the fifth area is around the strategic workforce planning, particularly with regards to talent management. And on many of our recent webinars, we've established that recruitment does continue to be a problem. Retaining skills and competences continues to be a problem. The difficulties in being able to recruit. So what's really important is about how you can strategically workforce plan to ensure that you have the ability to recruit and retain the right skills in your workplace. So when exploring how to address talent management, we found that strategic workforce planning that anticipates future skill requirements and cultivates a diverse talent pipeline is actually fundamental to any business operating in any sector when it comes to addressing talent management. So it's about being proactive in understanding and planning for the skills and roles that is going to be crucial in the future, leveraging both internal development programs as well as external hiring strategies to build that resilient workforce. And I think this is a good opportunity now when starting to plan for next year and the year beyond that, when it comes to all the employment reforms. It's about understanding the impact of the reforms on your own business and the knock-on impact on the ability to retain, recruit talent. So this is definitely one to factor in when you're planning next year. So before we run some polls, really just to sort of recap at this stage, if we think about 2025 priorities, well, we know we've got the statutory rate increases we have to factor in April, the increase to the employer national insurance coming in, the national minimum wage, and then obviously thinking about the employment reforms and how they're going to impact us. But also those 5 areas I've just talked about, so your regulatory compliance, artificial intelligence, the asynchronous working, data analytics, and strategic workforce planning. But also it's about thinking about, it's not just going to be 2025, it's about thinking longer term. Because of the reforms being so significant, it's about how it's ultimately going to affect how you operate moving forward and not just in 2025. And as you can see from the box on the right, the 2025 actions, then you know, our advice would be very much get familiar with the reforms, you know, start to carry out some analysis either through a SWOT or PESTLE method and understand what the impact is on your business of the reforms by carrying out an impact assessment on them. And from there, once you've sort of analysed and understood the reforms and how they impact you, that can then lead you to then developing that effective strategic HR plan that ensures that compliance but also aligns with your business plan as well. And another action for next year is actually one way in which you can keep up to date with the employment reforms is you can join our free virtual employment law seminar. So I thought that was really helpful because it's almost like part 2 of this webinar. Today is all about how you prepare and what you need to think about. And then by March, when we have our seminar on the 6th, we should have more information and more detail about all of these reforms that I showed you on that early slide. So do feel free to check out the QR code and sign up for that. As I said, it's on the 6th of March. So before we move on to strategic HR planning and looking at the role of HR in managing all of these legal and HR trends, we're going to run some polls. I think we've got 3 here. And obviously I've gone through quite a lot in what is changing, both legal and from a HR best practice. And I guess it's really, how do you feel? Do you feel prepared?
Okay, I will
Yeah.
close that poll. Right, my screen's just disappeared. Oh, there we go. And share the results.
So, okay. That's actually, that's really promising, isn't it? There's a large number of you that have started to think about what needs to happen. And for the 14% of you that don't feel prepared, hopefully, as I said, you'll get a copy of the slides so you can look back over. Hopefully today will give you some ideas and help to focus the mind on actually what's going to be priority and what needs to happen.
Absolutely.
And the second poll here in this section is really, at this point in time, what is your biggest challenge now? So before any of the reforms are coming in, appreciate they'll all be relevant, but it's about picking the top if you can.
Okay, I will
Yeah.
close the poll and share that result.
Okay, yeah, managing costs, which isn't a surprise.
Especially
I think
so close to the year end as well. It's all coming together, isn't it?
yeah,
All at the same time.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And interestingly, the 6% for absenteeism, I wonder how, if we were to ask that same poll question in 2 years, I wonder how different it would look, because you know we know they're going to be taking away, for example, the waiting days.
Waiting days.
So it's SSP from day 1 of sickness, and you wonder what the inadvertent consequences are of that proposal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And then we've got one final one in this
here.
section.
There we go.
Yeah, so which one will have the biggest impact, biggest challenge for your business?
Okay.
Yeah, let's see what the results are.
So I had a little flurry then. Right, I'll close that now and share the results.
Yeah, the cost piece again.
Costs.
Yeah. And interestingly, Sue and I have just participated in the government consultation to feed in our reviews, our thoughts on the new employment rights bill. And a lot of the questions was about unintended consequences, what impact is it likely to have, and things like that. So the cost is definitely one that will be a challenge, I think.
Yep. Okay, I will hide that. Back over to you.
Okay, lovely. So with all those legal changes on the horizon, those latest trends and best practices I've spoken about, it's obviously going to be essential to create that strategic HR plan, because it's vital in that it aligns with it aligns human resources with the overall business objectives. And by doing that, it can help the business to identify current and future needs, develop strategies to attract and retain talent. It can allow the organisation to stay ahead of competitors by implementing the latest HR trends. Having a plan that will also help to ensure employees have the necessary skills and development opportunities to contribute to business success. It can ensure compliance, obviously, with legislation and any sector-specific regulations. And of course, it can mitigate the risks associated with all of those new employment reforms. So strategic HR planning is really important anytime, but is even more so now with all of the reforms on the horizon. The one thing I do want to just add around the reforms is just remember that they are still progressing through Parliament. So that means they are still subject to amendments and get debated and can be changed. So just make sure your strategic plan can be flexed of this fact and take account of it. So it's about this is why it's so crucial to stay on top of all the reforms and how they're progressing through Parliament, so that you're just in the know and feel very prepared for when the act does become, for when the bill does become an act. And if you remember this slide from earlier, where I was just setting out, obviously we've got the legal changes coming in, both through the reforms as well as the statutory changes coming in April. What you'll see here is when you're developing your strategic plan, there's going to be many questions that will need exploring, and you'll need to find a way of addressing any concerns, as well as seizing any opportunities as well. So I've listed some 10 immediate questions that come to my mind, at least anyway. You know, for example, how as a business are we going to deal with increased costs? You know, we've got changes to the SSP rules that I just mentioned, the employer NIC costs, and also the family leave entitlements that are going to be coming in. You know, we are going to see changes to how employers can use zero-hour contracts. So how can employees maintain a flexible and agile workforce? How will the reforms alter the way in which we need to recruit and resource for the business? You know, there is talk of a statutory probation period coming in. As I said, there's going to be changes to how zero-hour contracts can be used. All of these impact on your ability to recruit, retain, and manage flexibility. The other thing to consider is things like the new statutory rates and pay elements that are going to be coming in. How will that have a knock-on effect with your reward strategy? So if, for example, you do offer currently above the statutory minimum in some of your benefits and policies, that might currently set you ahead of any competitors because you are able to go above and beyond the statutory. But when those statutory rates or new entitlements come in, and the gap then between the statutory and what you currently offer narrows, it might have that knock-on effect in terms of your ability to remain competitive when it comes to recruiting the best talent and retaining employees. So it's thinking around how those costs can have that impact on your reward strategy for recruiting and retaining. There's also something to think about in terms of the effect of the reforms on employee value propositions. So if you're not familiar with the EVP, that's about having a proposition that it's a way of communicating to potential employees as well as communicating to your current workforce that sets out what's important to you as a business, what are your standards, what are your benefits, the development opportunities and experiences you can give to people and they can expect to receive if they're working for you. It's very much a promotional tool for when you're wanting to recruit and obviously hold on and retain your talent. We also need to think about the employment relationships because we are going to see changes to industrial relations, the role of unions, And it's just thinking about how you can maintain those positive relationships and ensure employees remain engaged through these periods of change. Crucially, think about the training. This is something that is going to be inevitable, whatever the bill looks like in its final form. And it's not just about training your employees or your line managers, but it's about training your senior leaders in the business and your HR teams if you have those on site. Because if you think about it, some of the reforms are changes that are being made that haven't been made for many, many years. And, you know, if you think about your HR team, they will need the training to be able to then help support employees and their stakeholders. Also think about the technology that you use in the business at the moment. Is it all set up and capable of supporting the changes? And can you use technology with seizing the opportunities with some of those trends that I talked about for human resource management? And crucially, it's about understanding your working practices. So an audit is going to be a good starting point. Once we know what is going to be coming in, it's about understanding your current working practices and what needs to change in order to become compliant, and therefore how you must develop your own company policies, your contracts and your employment handbooks. So there's going to be many, many questions. These are just 10, but what will naturally happen is more will come about just through working through whether you're doing a SWOT or person analysis, your impact assessment. But it's really important that you look at the employee life cycle as a whole. So I just want to focus briefly now before we sort of draw the webinar to a close, and that's about the role of HR in managing change, which is pivotal. It's crucial for supporting business through change, because businesses are going to try and deal with these unprecedented changes, not just in terms of the workforce, but the technology, the legal changes. And HR isn't just about being a support function, but it is critical, like I said, really from the outset, it's a critical business partner capable of influencing the strategic direction of the business. So HR needs to play a pivotal role during a period in which we're going to see the most significant developments in employment law, and having that proactive and supportive approach, working with the business, HR can help the organisation to navigate through these changes. So I've sort of identified 5 main areas in which HR can help in supporting and managing the change in the business. And first of all, it's about assessing the change readiness. It's about understanding the reforms. It's about staying abreast of how they develop over the coming months and engaging with experts to ensure that they are accurately interpreting the developments and compliance with the regulations. You know, it's about understanding the impact as well on the business and the workforce. So which existing policies will need to be updated to comply. It's about reviewing your employment contracts, your handbooks, assessing the financial impact of the changes, and then identifying any gaps in any skill areas where additional support's needed. So there's a huge piece of assessment needed in being ready for these changes that are coming in. HR also plays a crucial role in facilitating communication. So whether that's, you know, clear and consistent messaging. So it's so vital that employees receive clear, consistent communications about the changes, the impact, and how it may affect them. It's about being transparent, so making sure that HR can help with that transparency through any change process, keeping employees informed about progress and adjustments, and when it comes to new policies, making sure people know what the rules are. Providing training and support is fundamental, and skill developments, for example, HR can offer training programs to the business to equip their employees with the skills to succeed. Managers will need training on all these reforms. HR can act as a coach and mentor to business leaders, and employees to help manage going through introducing these policies. And HR also offers resources like being counsellors, if you like, or assisting employees during stressful periods. Monitoring and evaluating is also another important element, and HR plays a key role in that. So it's about tracking progress of the reforms, understanding the reforms and therefore what changes you need to make to your working practices. It's about being able to identify any roadblocks, obstacles in the workplace that will make it difficult to introduce any of the legislation changes. And it's about that continuous improvement and reviewing and assessing how policies are brought in once they are brought in. And ultimately, what you want HR to be doing is to be working with the stakeholders in ensuring there's legal compliance. And that comes back to your impact assessments, being legally compliant to the new reforms, the codes of practices that will come in, the government guidance. So there is so much that is really important, and HR can play that pivotal role in supporting the business. Before we come on to another poll, I just wanted to sort of run through some of the key competences that we believe are essential to HR or whoever it is that's undertaking that role, that activity. Fundamental to influencing the business strategy. So it's about, emotional intelligence is having that deep understanding of people. So it's inevitable that that's vital. So you get to ensure that new policies that you're bringing in are introduced effectively. It's about being able to create the right organisational culture that contributes to the organisational performance. Strategic thinking is vital. The ability to align HR initiatives back to your business goals is going to be fundamental. Financial and business acumen. So, if we think about data analytics being a big trend, and be it working alongside as a strategic business partner, understanding financial metrics is crucial, and having that business acumen. Leadership, is very important in terms of inspiring others, and obviously the ability to delegate, motivate, develop, communicate and discipline. And it's about recognising people as individuals and valuing them for their unique skills to boost engagement and job satisfaction. Then there's your change management in terms of, our processes are going to evolve because of the reforms. It has to. It is going to be significant, and it's how you take your managers through that period of change in having to manage people in a different way. And then there's data analytics. It's about having the skills and competences in being able to be proficient in data analysis tools and platforms, because it can offer HR practitioners the insights needed to make informed decisions and therefore influence and shape the people and business strategy. And then the final two are about forecasting and technology proficiency. So forecasting is about anticipating the HR and labour market trends. HR can lead essential adaptations to the workplace, bringing in best practices so that you can gain an edge over your competitors. And the technology proficiency, whether that's using AI, as we've spoken about, for recruitment, or implementing a HR information system, these are going to be things that are essential skills, non-negotiable in a modern HR. It's crucial HR understands the digital environment and how to apply technology in the people context. So we've just got a couple of quick polls before we've got a few slides as well to go. So do hope you can stay, as I'm conscious of time. So after today, are you going to be prioritising developing a strategic HR plan to prepare for next year and beyond?
Okay, I will
Yep.
close that one and share those results. I think that's a resounding
Okay.
yes.
Yep.
Okay.
That's good to hear.
And the other one is to do
Yep.
with trends that people will explore.
Yeah, so the ones that we covered earlier.
Okay, I will give that just a few more seconds. There we go. I will close and share that one. There we go.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. AI is quite the second highest, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. I think we've got our policy on the doc shop now, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Yes, AI is definitely going to just continue at fast pace, isn't it? So interesting. Thank you.
It is.
I'll move
Okay, I'll hide that.
the
There you go.
slides on. So I've obviously spoken a lot about the changes coming in, some of the trends that we've seen, the importance of strategic planning, HR's role, but actually you need to be able to demonstrate HR's impact basically on the bottom line, and it can be hard to do sometimes, and it's just trying to think about how it can be achieved. Quantifying it can be challenging, I think, but it's not impossible. So for example, your staff turnover, reducing turnover is a key HR goal. Probably most of you may be using it. The financial impact of turnover can be calculated by obviously considering the recruitment costs that goes into recruiting the replacement, training expenses, the lost productivity, you know, during the first few months of somebody coming on board, they're clearly not necessarily up to speed. And obviously the income due to vacant positions. So monitoring and reporting a reduction in turnover over time can help to illustrate how HR are contributing to stability in the organisation and cost savings. Talent optimization, it's about nurturing internal talent through succession planning and professional training initiatives, creating that internal talent pool. And therefore what that does is reduce your recruitment costs and builds contingency plans against potential resignations and absences. So having a key focus on talent optimization can help enhance productivity, giving the business that competitive edge. The absenteeism rate, again, that's probably another one most of you will be familiar with. The reduction of absenteeism is a key HR goal. You know, as high levels can be detrimental, as we all know, to a business because it impacts on workloads, morale, and ultimately productivity. And therefore, in turn, it leads to increased costs, not just in terms of any sick pay, but obviously the pay for any temporary cover that you need. And then obviously there's the management time that's often spent with managing sickness absence policies. Employee relation cases is an interesting one. And actually in organisations, employment relations, ER culture can have a positive or negative effect on the business. So if you think about what I mean by employee relations is the number of disciplinary cases, grievances, absence cases, performance management cases, you know, the time that's taken to resolve these can provide an indication of challenges and costs across the business relating to the management of people. So having a high number of ER cases and or poorly managed cases can cost a business with that misspent management time, reduced productivity, and those commitment issues that can come along with it too, as well as customer complaints and reputational damage internally and externally. So metrics in this area is actually going to be really vital to help determine the effectiveness of how HR is positively reducing the number of ER cases. The EVP, which I mentioned a moment ago, the employee value proposition, organisations can quantitatively demonstrate the impact of EVP by analysing data on employee retention, engagement data. All of that will help give an indication as to how successful and effective your EVP is. Also enhance the employer brand value. Brand value, whilst it's less tangible, is significantly influenced by your HR activities. If you think about employee satisfaction, employee engagement, and alignment with company values, these all impact the brand perception. And so measuring employee engagement is one key way of doing that. Conducting brand perception surveys and analysing feedback, helps connect HR initiatives to the brand. And then finally, employee engagement. So high engagement levels lead to fewer absences, more motivated employees, and therefore a more productive workforce and a desire to do well. So ultimately, this can all lead to that higher business performance. So all of these are examples of how you can demonstrate the impact of HR on the business and the bottom line. So these are things definitely that I would encourage you to try and think about incorporating so that you can assess moving forward in 2025 and beyond. So I appreciate that we started a bit late because of the technical issues. If we have any questions, we can either take a few now, Sue, or we can respond as a general communication separately. Depends, I don't know how many we've had come through.
So, yeah, there aren't any questions, so we can move on. That's fine. People can contact us direct afterwards if we need to have any.
And that leads us nicely onto our final poll here, and it's about whether you'd like to find out more about our services, whether HR services, training, payroll, our knowledge base, which is our portal with template policies, articles, or any health and safety support. Please do let us know. We can get in touch with you.
Yeah, there's lots of options. We're also building resources for our clients in terms of navigating through everything next year. Building a sort of resource page for them so that they can access everything they need, as well as obviously through their HR support in our team. Okay, I will close that for now, and then there you go.
Lovely. So I did just briefly mention our knowledge base. This is our online HR resource, and essentially it provides all the templates that you need for the employment lifecycle and HR documents and policies. But there's also a wealth of articles as well, covering every topic you can think of, as well as guidance, practical guidance in how to manage various situations. So there's a QR code there if you'd like to find out more. And of course, we also offer training courses as well. And as you can see here, two in particular, we do the ILM level 3 and the level 5. But in terms of, if we think about next year and going into the changes, definitely, obviously, training around employment law is vital. Effective communication skills, leading the team. So do let us know or get in touch if you'd like to find out more about our training. And our usual webinar schedule, we have in January the essentials for small employers, although all sized employers are welcome because it'll be a useful reminder. February is all about the new deal for working people, and we're going to talk about the pay implications of the new Employment Rights Bill. I have touched on it briefly throughout today, but we're going to look specifically about the pay in that. And then, as I spoke about a while back, we do have our annual virtual employment law seminar. So that's on the 6th of March. It's actually a couple of hours that it's scheduled for because, as you'll know from one of the earlier slides, we can't get through it in just 1 hour. And it tends to usually be a couple of hours. So do join us for that event. It'd be great to have you there. I did mention as well a risk audit. We currently have a risk audit available online, and it's about giving you access to this tool so that you can look at to see where you are now in terms of what you operate in terms of a human resource management perspective, and actually where there may be gaps if there are any. It takes 10 to 15 minutes to complete, and then you get a report by at the end of it once you've done so. So there's another QR to that if you want to do it. We also have, we're offering a free 30-minute consultation with one of our experienced HR advisors. So there's access to our helpline here. So it could be you're dealing with a performance issue, absences, or there's something you want to pick up on that's triggered in your mind on what we've been talking about today. We're offering that 30-minute free consultation. So again, there's another QR code. And please do keep in touch with us. There's our contact details, whether you call us, email us, or we're all on the socials, and you can follow us on LinkedIn. So there again is another QR code. This just brings me to say thank you ever so much for your patience at the start of today's webinar. I think it's the first time it's happened in my 5 years of running them. So I really appreciate you staying on and joining our webinar today. And thank you, Sue, for your technical expertise and support as well in the polls.
Thank you.
Thank you. So have a good day, everybody, and hopefully see you next month.